Hey, peace, y'all. This is Empress, Coach Rena Nicole, and this is our AM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up. It is Friday, October the 7th, 2022, and let's get it. Today, the topic is how to set healthy boundaries. Now, with that being said, keep in mind we are streaming live from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spooncasting with another drop-in audio app. Shout out to Spooncasters. Hey, and also Clubhouse. So if you are on any of those drop-in audios like Clubhouse or Spoon, make sure you hit that raise the hand icon, share the room, ping some people up in that joint. If you're on Spoon, make sure you hit the phone icon to come up to the stage and share your experience on how you set boundaries or how you need to learn how to set more boundaries in your existence. With that being said, I'm going to give you all another 45 seconds of this lovely piano background, and we're going to get right into the topic. So yes, this is the AM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up. I am your host, Empress Coach Rena Nicole of RenaNicole.com, Divine Intervention Show, TheCurve.net, The Love Experiences, and we are here to discuss how to set healthy boundaries, okay? So if you ask, because a lot of the time people get boundaries and standards very, very mixed up, okay? So let's talk more about boundaries, right? Because boundaries, they can take so many different types of forms, but they also can range from being rigid and strict to appearing almost non-existent, okay? And that's what keeps them different from standards. You get what I'm saying? So let's get on the money with that. So when you are a person who has more rigid boundaries, you literally keep others at a distance. You seem detached even with intimate partners. You don't have that many friends around you or close relationships around you, and you kind of avoid close relationships, okay? So if you are a type of person that has more loose or open boundaries, you really get involved with others' problems. You find it difficult to say no to others' requests. You overshare personal information with other people, and you seek to please others for the fear of rejection, okay? Now, when you have healthy boundaries, you understand that making your expectations clear helps you in a few ways, right? One, it establishes what type of behavior you will accept from other people, and it also establishes what type of behavior other people can expect from you. Okay? Dun, dun, dun. Now, if you have healthy boundaries, the way that you behave is you share personal information appropriately. You're not going to overshare, like it's not too much and it's not too little. Okay? And you also understand that your personal needs and desires, and you know how to effectively communicate them, right? Now, an important key factor about having healthy boundaries is that those people who do have healthy boundaries, they value their own opinions or information that they have. They value, okay? So, and they also are able to accept when someone else tells them no. Okay? Now, everything in this existence can be subjective or can be extremely complex. So don't think anything else when it comes to boundaries, because boundaries literally are very situational, right? So if you have like for example, like if you have like strict boundaries and more like, okay, so let me just break it down another way, because I really don't like using the dominant or the submission thing, but this was something that I remember talking about in the past. Well, when some people are more dominant in the workplace, but at home they're more relaxed and they're more carefree. Like they're more like they're more subservient, you know, to the needs of the people in their home, and they don't mind doing for others. And in the workplace, they're more like take charge and do all these things. You know, at home they're more nurturing and loving and caring at home. Okay. So even people with different boundaries can actually be based on a culture. A lot of time boundaries are based on culture. Okay? So when you share personal information with some cultures, it's really considered inappropriate, right? So other cultures, sharing might be encouraged at all times, you know, like I definitely can say that for I guess people of color, that a lot of what we grow up on is like to be strong and be, you know, to just, you know, give it to God. To get, quote unquote, give it to God and literally survive that, whatever that means for you. But it's never like a healthy thing where we're actually developing tools of self and self-love and self-care. But that's a whole nother topic, right? Okay. So now let me do a quick reset before we go on. This is the AM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up. I am your host, Empress Coach Rena Nicole of RenaNicole.com, Divine Intervention Show and Podcast, The Love Experiences, and The Curve.net. Today, our topic is how to set healthy boundaries, okay? Whether it's personal or interpersonal, that's the topic today. Keep in mind that we are streaming live from Spooncasting, which is another drop-in audio app that we use. Clubhouse, if you're on Clubhouse, hit that greenhouse at the top if you're in the audience listening in. Follow the club. Raise your hand and come to the stage. Make sure you're pinging your friends in. Make sure you're sharing the room. Shares and pings are free 99. Now, we are also streaming live on StreamYard. So if you see the link on Clubhouse, Facebook, or YouTube, hit that link and come on in. Drop by, get on video, talk to us. You know, share your stories of how you have achieved healthy boundaries, how you want to exact healthy boundaries, or how you need to set more healthy boundaries in your existence. With that being said, let's hop right back in, okay? Now, let's talk about the types of boundaries, because a lot of the times people are not aware of the types of boundaries. So it's hard for them to kind of set boundaries, you know, and then they're off living this existence kind of wild and just seeking validation from every place and everyone. Now, um, building healthy boundaries, whether they're personal or interpersonal, um, they really hinge on the type of boundaries, if that makes any sense at all, right? So there's physical boundaries. Now, physical boundaries literally refers to your personal space, your privacy, and your physical vessel, which is your body, okay? So you might meet someone who is very comfortable with public displays of the affection, PDAs, hugging, kissing, and hand holding, or you might meet with someone who prefers not to be touched in public. They prefer to save that for privacy. They think it's too inappropriate to do in public, okay? So the next one is sexual, right? So sexual boundaries are extremely important to establish for adults. So there are your expectations concerning intimacy, sexual comments, and touches that might be uncomfortable for you, right? The next one are intellectual. The next one are intellectual. So these types of boundaries, unbelievable. These these are your expectations concerning intimacy. I'm sorry. These boundaries concern your thoughts and beliefs. Intellectual boundaries are not respected when someone dismisses another person's ideas and opinions. Intellectual boundaries are so important. And sometimes they're a little complicated as well, because it's like if you start to feel like someone is really not understanding or being receiving, or they just don't understand what's going on, you can get frustrated. But that's when you really had to ask yourself, like, why am I behaving this way when I should have enough patience to hear someone out? That's all you have to do. Sometimes, and I get it, I really get intellectual boundaries, but that's a really complicated one, especially when you know what you're talking about. You have done the research, you gained the knowledge, you have the practice, and you have the perseverance through these types of things that you're speaking on. And someone is just really not getting it, or they're very misinformed. But that's where patient comes into play. Emotional boundaries are extremely important, because most people get emotionally fucked all the time. Dun, dun, dun. All of the time. People are so emotionally manipulated, gaslighted, and so many other things that comes with that emotional territory when you really haven't established your boundaries with people, right? So emotional boundaries refers to a person's feelings. You might not be comfortable sharing your feelings about everything with, like, interpersonal or personal. Instead, you prefer to gradually share them over time. Like, you need more time with people. You need to get to know them more. You need to establish more trust with them before you start sharing your emotions with people, right? Now, for example, like me, I'm comfortable with sharing my feelings in the past. I'm not comfortable sharing my present feelings with people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's already in the past, so what do I care? I already overcame that. Now, I'm very not comfortable sharing my current feelings with people, because I feel like the current feelings are still being processed, so there's no need for me to share them with people. I'm still maneuvering through, I'm still processing, I'm still allowing myself time to actually feel them and understand them, and try to balance and harmonize, or get over them. So I think that's important to some people anyway. So that was just my little example. Now, financial boundaries are extremely important, because if you don't have them, then any kind of resources that you have, you're not respecting them. You'll overspend, you'll overgive, and you won't have the desire to achieve more, because it's literally all about money. Okay. So if you like to save money and not spend it on trendy stuff, and also you might not want to loan money to other people too. I don't believe in that. Unless it's extremely like an emergency, or like a friend that really needs the help. Other than that, that's just not. I was taught to not do that as a child. I was taught that wasn't something that was healthy. That's not something that's going to keep you stable if you're always giving your money away. Now, when you're ready to establish your personal boundaries, you have to take all of those into account. Okay. So the best thing is to do, write it down. Dun, dun, dun. Literally. So literally, when you are setting your personal boundaries, it's literally about discovering how to separate your feelings or stuff from someone else's. Okay. Because if you don't have established boundaries, say for instance, like, I'm gonna use social media as an example. Say for instance, we're in a room, and it's like a big room, and someone's on stage and they're like, "Oh, this is the way I think of things, la 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 la, la la la," whatever they're saying, and everybody's like, "Oh, me too, me too." But yet, if you talk to one of those people in private, they have completely different boundaries than that. But they're so like if you say you have a boundary in private, then they're agreeing with you. It's something different than what the person was saying before. But it's just like they are so interchangeable, because they have not established who they are. So they don't know what their boundaries are. Anything someone says that sounds good, that everyone's agreed to, they're going to agree with it as well. Okay. So that's the dangerous part about using someone else's boundaries for your own, because boundaries are supposed to be healthy for helping you identify and keep your own space of safety. Okay. and and it's supposed to, help you to establish your physiological needs as well. Okay. Now, setting boundaries is definitely beneficial for more than I just defining your identity, right? So having them in place limits your exposure to stress and the body's production of adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormone. Okay, dun dun dun. Now, it literally protects your mental well-being. Okay, so that's extremely important. All right, so that the key factor in well-being um is this, right? When you have a lack, when you're experiencing a lack of boundaries, it leads to emotional and physical fatigue, right? And then you have to deal with the exhausting behaviors of other people. Oh man, I need a moment, guys. Moments over. Now, um it doesn't stop there, right? Because boundaries promote a sense of autonomy, right? So it allows you to feel like you're in control as far as possible and what you desire and what you don't desire, right? And it keeps you safe in relationships that are personal and interpersonal, right? And that's extremely imperative. Keep that in mind, okay? Dun, dun, dun. Right. So you have to realize that blurred boundaries or those fence riders, people that are not sure about themselves when it comes to personal interpersonal relationships, it literally are linked to like unhealthy lifestyles, okay? And it gives you lower levels of the happy hormones or chemicals, right? And lower levels of happiness. And literally a lot of it puts you at higher risk for dysfunction in your family. So you want to have boundaries. I don't care if you're thinking, oh, happy wife, happy life, wow, or happy spouse, happy house. Um, balance it out, guys. Balance it out. You're allowed to have boundaries when you're in relationships. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm in a relationship, so that's my man, that's my woman. Dun, dun, dun. And for some delusional reason, they feel like they can establish your boundaries on your life. Okay? So that's crazy. Crazy, right? So when you come to the point of establishing the boundaries, we are going to tell you how, because that's what the whole thing is about today. I'm moving slower, I'm talking slower so people can understand what I'm saying. And I'm feeling good this morning. Hey, Spoon. What's up, guys? Spoon always coming through. Hey, babes. Y'all always coming through. Y'all always showing love. Y'all always showing support. I love Spoon to drop in audio. Let me check out StreamYard, see my YouTubers. And okay. It's some connection issues right now. Okay. So, reconnected. Sorry about that. To those on my coaching page that lost connection with me, still here. Now, getting back to how to actually establish the boundaries. Let's go there. So, literally, to successfully introduce and set boundaries, the master key is to understand why they're each important to you and how they'll benefit your emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, mental well-being, right? So taking time to be literally a detective of your own psychology, right? Because things happen and people can make you feel uncomfortable, and sometimes you're not even sure why, but that's because you haven't established a boundary around yourself and around your existence, right? So, in order to do so, you have to explore what's happening to you in any situation by spending time with yourself. Okay. So you can start small. So you don't have boundaries in place already. The prospect of introducing more may seem overwhelming to you. It may seem like too much. It's like, that's it. That is it. Okay. So, in order to not to feel like that, you can build them up slowly. Okay. When you build things up slowly, you're allowing yourself to take things at a more comfortable pace, giving yourself grace, and it provides you time to reflect on whether it's heading to the right direction or if you need to make some tweaks to it. Okay. Now, when you set them early, right? Especially when you're talking about relationships that are personal, it can be a difficult thing to do because it's like a pre-existing relationship. When you, especially, you can't put boundaries straight away. It's a lot easier to work with, right? If you can just set them straight away, so that's why, like, we go over the tips of, when you're dating or what to do, all the things in the first 9 weeks of dating. We've had so many spaces on what to do, what to research, what to, vet, and different things of that nature. But boundaries are definitely something that you need to set in the beginning, being very intentional, because boundary falls under the line of intentional living along with standards. When people are not intentional and they just get the rose tints on, they literally propel themselves into a trajectory of dysfunction and chaos, which is not healthy for anyone involved. Okay. So when you set boundaries and expectations from the very beginning, everyone in the situations know where they're standing. They know what things can cause hurt, confusion, and frustration can be lessened, right? Because you're already knowing, like, if you do these things, it's not going to be good for us. You do this thing to me, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for me. If I do these things to you, it's not going to be good for me. It's not going to be good for you. So these things are established with boundaries, right? Okay. So, being consistent. This is where most people fail in relationships. They're not consistent at all because they get too mixed up in their own feelings and fuck shit, and they just are not there to support because they're too busy being enthralled in their own delusion or automatic thoughts that are not true, that are very low vibrational. Period. Okay? So consistency with boundaries can fall to the wayside and lead to confusion and encourage new expectation demands among those around you when you let them slide. So being very consistent and still, that's STILL, it helps you to reinforce your original thresholds and beliefs, and it aligns with your core values because it ensures those lines remain clearly established within your relationships. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So now we're getting into the part that I love to talk about when it comes to relationship, which is the foundation, because boundaries are an essential part of the foundation of building healthy, sustainable relationships. Okay. So next thing you have to do is create the framework. So the boundaries are established, right? So now you're creating the house. Now you're putting the framework up, right? Before you start building, right? So the framework definitely depends on the type of relationship it is. Okay. So if you find it helpful, there's no reason not to have few basic things in place that can be adapted to accordingly. Okay. So if you get like an hour or two alone each weekend, right? This boundary could apply whether you live with a partner or not. If you have a busy social schedule with friends or you're close with your family, those 2 hours are yours to do those things with, spend time with your family. So, because it's one thing I always tell people, like, when you get in a relationship, it's not your job to take people away from their life. And a lot of people are so confused inside. They have abandonment issues. They have insecurities that they come into relationships and they want to control everything someone else is doing. And they want to take them away from their friends and family because they want them to be always hyper focused on them and never actually living a life anymore. So the important part is to remember that you have a life to live, and you are supposed to get that time for yourself and keep it. Just because you're in a relationship, I get that the actual time of to like maybe if it's every Saturday at 12, that may not work for you, but make sure that you're still getting your 2 hours or whatever to yourself per week, because that's important self care and self love that you have already grown to establish, and that's actually a boundary of yours. And just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean all your boundaries go out the window. That's a big, huge mistake that people make when they get into relationships. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Wow. So now, when you are thinking of boundaries, don't think like, oh, I have all these boundaries in place, I can't add more. Oh, yes, the hell you can. It's your existence. You can add as many boundaries as you want to. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure they are obtainable. Make sure they are not things that are not reachable, things that you cannot actually live up to, and things that just don't align with your core values or the values in place with your relationship with the world. I won't say with people because that's too limited, but with how you interact with the world, make sure that you're not having so many boundaries that you're not able to do so, okay, in an effective manner. Keep in mind, okay? So, when you add the extras in, consider them that they are minimal, but they still matter. They might be boundaries that come up out of nowhere when a certain situation happens, but you remember that you have them. You know, so keep that in mind. Now, something that I've been talking about lately a lot is being aware of social media, right? So a lot of these platforms allow for way too much access to each other, and they encourage some considerable boundary blurring. Me, when I feel like my boundaries have been crossed, I will leave a space because I use drop-in audio apps a lot. So if I feel like I'm being disrespected or disregarded, if I say something and it's not heard right, I will leave because I feel like that my boundaries have been crossed and I don't have to stay. I'm not obligated to stay. I'm not obligated to submit, volunteer myself for abuse. I'm not obligated to volunteer myself for emotional abuse, spiritual abuse by anyone. So with that being said, I remove myself from the situation because there's incredible oversharing that happens on social media, okay? And a lot of us are concerned that family and friends will post personal information or photos exactly like on places like Facebook, Instagram that we didn't want them to share. So this is why I establish boundaries with people and I don't take pictures with them. Or if I do take pictures with them, I let them know like, hey, before you post this, let me know you're going to post it, because I might want to switch my settings on that picture to friends only or to private because I don't feel like that my personal brothers and sisters and cousins, everybody need to know who they are. That's just me though. I'm just giving you an example and you do how you do, okay? So if you feel like that someone's actually crossing a boundary with you in this existence, your concerns are no less valid when it happens digitally. A lot of people are like, oh, it's just online, it's just entertainment, but I've seen a lot of people be murdered. I've seen a lot of people being harassed, stalked, go to court over digital content, digital interactions. So like I said, don't allow anyone to invalidate what you're going through and to minimize what you're going through because that's still a part of invalidation because they're throwing out that it's just social media and that you're taking it too serious. A lot of narcissists use those lines of you're taking things too serious, you're being oversensitive, and it's literally a way for them to gaslight you so they can say whatever they want to say and for you to allow them to cross your boundaries. Okay, keep that in mind. You don't have to expose yourself on social media if it's stressing to you. Like I said before, I've been really heavy on talking about how social media can be a trigger or a stressor. I notice when I'm in certain spaces on dropping audio, my heart starts going really fast and I start feeling like, like nauseous. And I'm like, let me get the fuck out of here. Because this right here is not why I come to social media. I don't come here to feel like this. I don't come here to argue with people. I don't come here to yell and scream. I don't come here to feel like I'm having a panic attack or anything like that. So let me remove myself until I feel better and just go in a space, like that's off of social media. It can be very draining, to say the least. Now that's just an example of certain ways that people may feel, certain ways that I may feel, but I just had to throw it out there that if you are listening to this and you ever experienced that whatever you're going through is definitely valid, right? So you're asking, so you're saying to yourself, how do I excuse me, how do I sorry about that. How do I let people know about my boundaries? Do I just wait until they do something I don't like and just like, oh, hey, don't do that to me. I don't like that. The best way to allow people to know what your boundaries are is to communicate them. Communication is critical in the world of boundaries, because if someone consistently oversteps your boundaries and you don't say anything, you're going to grow to resent them. You're going to get angry. It's going to build up and it's going to end ugly. Okay? Dun, dun, dun. And instead of allowing it to get that far, you can raise your concerns and discuss them and your needs, so it doesn't turn into something that's confrontational and dysfunctional, okay, or chaotic. Keep that in mind. Now, you have to be your biggest advocate. Nobody else is going to advocate for you like you. Point blank, period. Okay. Now, when you have a strong foundation, you need to show yourself that love, you know, and that grace, okay? Because if you have a narrative in your head that say you're worthless and undeserving, then you're going to find it difficult to put boundaries around yourself that keeps you protected, okay? A lot of it comes down to how you value yourself and what you think of yourself. And this is why we have those spaces of self-development outside of the podcast, where we're teaching you how to reframe your thoughts, how to not believe the lies that you tell yourself, so you can enter this world and receive all the things that you're supposed to in abundance and wealth and harmony and grace and love and peace. Okay. Now, boundaries definitely help you gain perspective, right? When you don't have them, they're detrimental to your mental health. Okay. Because you're going too far in overthinking, and it definitely impacts your emotional well-being. Okay. So get into a healthy level of thinking about boundaries and not hyper focusing on what your boundaries should be, how to set them, or anything like that. It'll definitely help you because you're taking your time to establish them. That's not saying that you don't have any, but if you want to renew your experience or your sense of boundaries in this existence, then do so. So you don't have to be dictated by them. A lot of people dictate things to themselves and they feel like that they are suppressing themselves. Just go with your instincts. The more aligned you become, the more your instincts scream at you. Okay? That's intuitive, your intuitive nature, your intuition. All those things start to scream at you, and it's easier to navigate through most things. And because we are definitely one of our greatest traits as humans, we are extremely and highly intuitive, both women and men, right? One of the things about boundaries, some people think they only supposed to have boundaries, but they don't respect other people's boundaries. I cannot stand that. Oh my god, child. Listen. Wrong answer. Because a lot of people want you to respect their boundaries. They get attitudes, they hang up on you, they get mad when you don't do things their way, but they don't respect your boundaries. They're not able to provide the things that you need so you can feel safe within the relationship with them. They just want you to recognize what they need so they can feel safe with you. Okay? So in addition, to setting your own, it's great to appreciate those of others. Even if they're different from your own, because nobody has to be like you. Nobody has to have the same core values as you, the same ideologies as you. That's just kind of asinine to even think that would exist in this beautifully diverse world. If you are concerned about what somebody is establishing, just ask them, okay? Um, Conversation doesn't have to be awkward or confrontational. You can just generally ask them, and you can say, can I ask you later? Can I talk to you? Can I call you later? Can I message you later? When is a good time for that? And it'll help you to set that framework that we were discussing earlier and put it in place, right? So it's about using your common sense, especially when it comes to things like intimate partner relationships or interpersonal relationships as well. That you set these boundaries, that you ask them about their boundaries, and there's a lot of things, like, say for instance, if you like posting pictures of your relationship but your partner doesn't like it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're cheating. Maybe they just don't like their photos all over the internet. And I think that a lot of people, they don't take into consideration what their partner wants or desires. They just have their own agenda or their own frame, like thing that they want to set out on in life, and that's all they care about. It's almost like they want their partners to play catch up and everyone else around them to play catch up with them. And they're not self-aware enough to see that they are crossing boundaries with other people, and that boundaries don't work in a sense of people catching up to them and following what they believe. Okay, that's so important. Okay, dun dun dun. Now, when people consistently violate boundaries, it definitely breeds resentment. I continue to say this over and over. The more someone crosses your boundaries, the more you resent them. And then resentment, it builds up that content, and it causes you to, like, I literally, not even just me, I know many people that are like that. Like, if I'm at the point of resentment, I'll pull away. I won't talk to you. I won't call you. I won't give you attention. I won't do any of that, because it's just like, I cannot deal with this. And they cross too many lines with me. And it's like they're not self-aware to see that it's them. And I'm not their mother, and I don't have the energy anymore to point out that you're crossing the line. So there's no harm in taking time to think before you speak, and to stop being so goddamn reactionary. Hello? Period. Okay? So, with that being said, boundaries are essential, for a lot of reasons, and they are completely different for every single being on the face of this existence, okay, in the face of this world. And they may make you seem like you are rigid. They may make people think you're cold-hearted or unfriendly or even sometimes confrontational. But if you don't have them, you're going to have more problems than what other people think, period. Problems with what other people think. So stop feeling guilty about setting boundaries in your own life, okay? Because they are an essential form of self-care, okay? And you have to incorporate them, because it definitely aligns with other elements into our daily existence, okay? From eating to diet to exercise is no difference. They're that important. They're essential part of our being and living, okay? Keep that in mind. So remember to take some time and consideration to decipher boundaries, and most importantly, the best way to implement them, because your mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, physical, soulful well-being will definitely suffer if you don't, but it definitely will improve, and you definitely will appreciate the change in your existence when you do. Now, with that being said, let me see who's on Spoon. Hey, Spooncasters, how y'all doing? And hey, Facebook, I see somebody's listening in. Make sure you sharing, make sure you commenting so I can see those comments. And with that being said, I am Empress, Coach Rena Nicole of RenaNicole.com, Divine Intervention Show and Podcast, The Love Experiences, TheCurve.net, and this was our AM Inspiration Show to wake that ass up, where we discuss how to set healthy boundaries today. With that being said, we have this podcast every single day, 7 days a week, 365 at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace, y'all. Take care.